The history of our world is a tapestry woven with threads of extraordinary human endeavor. We often recall the grand names, the titans of exploration whose stories are etched into our collective memory. But sometimes the most remarkable journeys are undertaken by those who remain in the shadows of history. Today, we turn our gaze to one such figure, Juan Sebastian Elcano. His name may not be as familiar as Magellan, the man who set out to circumnavigate the globe, but it was Elcano who, against all odds, completed that monumental voyage. A journey that forever changed our understanding of the planet we call home. This is not simply a tale of sailing, it's a story of survival, of unexpected leadership, and of the indomitable spirit of a man who inherited a seemingly impossible task. We will delve into the lesser-known facts of his life, uncovering the surprising truths behind the first-ever circumnavigation of the Earth. We will explore how a man who was not destined to lead rose to the occasion in the face of unimaginable hardship. The story of Elcano is a testament to the resilience of human beings when pushed to the very limits of their endurance. Join me, Mark. As we navigate the treacherous waters of history to uncover the story of the man who truly first sailed around the world. We will separate fact from legend and shine a light on the unsung hero of one of humanity's greatest achievements. This is the story of Juan Sebastian Elcano, a name that deserves to be known and celebrated. Prepare to be astonished by the journey of a man who saw what no one before him ever had, the full unbroken circle of our world. The Magellan expedition, a fleet of 5 ships and over 200 men, set sail from Spain in 1519 with a singular, audacious goal to find a western route to the Spice Islands. At its helm was Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese navigator of great renown and fierce determination. For over a year and a half, the fleet battled storms, starvation, and mutiny. They navigated the treacherous straits that would one day bear their captain's name, finally emerging into a vast, placid ocean they called the Pacific. But the apparent calm of this new sea was deceptive, and their greatest trials were yet to come. In the spring of 1521, on the island of Mactan, in what is now the Philippines, the expedition's fate took a dramatic and violent turn. Ferdinand Magellan, embroiled in a local conflict, was killed. His death left the expedition leaderless, thousands of miles from home, with their mission incomplete. The command structure crumbled and despair began to set in among the surviving crew. The 2 remaining ships, the Trinidad and the Victoria, were now a fragile remnant of the once proud armada. The dream of circumnavigation seemed to have died with their captain. It is in this moment of crisis that our story truly turns to Juan Sebastian Elcano. He was not the designated successor, nor a man of noble birth groomed for command. Yet it was he who was elected by the remaining crew to lead them onwards. A new objective was forged, not out of ambition, but out of a desperate need for survival, to get the last vessel, the Victoria, and its precious cargo of spices back to Spain. Elcano's challenge was no longer just to find a new route, but to complete the circle, to achieve what had never been done before, and to bring his men home. To understand the improbability of Elcano's rise, we must look at his role at the start of this epic voyage. He was not a captain nor a nobleman with powerful connections at the Spanish court. Juan Sebastian Elcano, a Basque mariner from Getaria, signed on as the ship's master, or maestra of the Concepcion, one of the 5 vessels in the fleet. His was a vital but subordinate role. The master was responsible for the day-to-day sailing of the ship, its navigation, its rigging, its crew management, while the captain held ultimate authority and represented the interests of the Crown and the expedition's financiers. Elcano was, in essence, a highly skilled professional, a technician of the sea. His world was one of ropes and sails, of charts and celestial observations. His initial journey was not without controversy. He had participated in an earlier mutiny against Magellan, a decision for which he was pardoned, but which marked him as a potential dissident. This was not the typical resume of a future leader of a royal expedition. His ascent was not planned. It was forged in the crucible of disaster and necessity, a classic example of an individual rising to an occasion that would have broken lesser men. When Magellan fell and subsequent commanders proved ineffective or also perished, the remaining crew had to make a choice. They needed a leader with unparalleled maritime skill, someone who understood the ship and the sea intimately. They turned not to a nobleman, but to the pragmatist, the expert navigator. Elcano's election to captain the Victoria was a testament to the respect he commanded from the men who knew his capabilities best. He inherited a single, leaking ship and a crew ravaged by disease and exhaustion, and with these meager resources, he was to attempt the impossible, to cross the vast, unknown expanse of the Indian Ocean and return to Spain. The journey home under Elcano's command was, in many ways, more perilous than the voyage out. The Victoria was alone, its timbers waterlogged and its sails tattered. The men were a skeletal crew, ghosts haunted by the memory of their lost comrades. Their primary struggle was against the invisible enemies that stalked every long-haul voyage of this era: starvation and scurvy. With their food stores dwindling to worm-eaten biscuits and foul water, the men's bodies began to fail them. Scurvy, the dreaded disease caused by a lack of vitamin C, caused their gums to rot, their teeth to fall out, and their limbs to swell in agony. Beyond the slow, creeping death of disease, Elcano had to navigate through hostile territory. The route home required them to cross the Indian Ocean and round the Cape of Good Hope, a passage controlled by the Portuguese. As Spain and Portugal were fierce rivals, landing at any Portuguese port meant certain imprisonment and the confiscation of their ship and its valuable cargo. Elcano was forced to make a daring, non-stop voyage from Timor to Spain, a far longer and more dangerous route, avoiding all known ports to escape capture. This decision pushed his ship and his crew to the absolute limits of human endurance. The psychological toll was immense. Every day was a battle for survival. Men died, their bodies committed to the deep, further diminishing the crew needed to man the vessel. The constant threat of Portuguese patrols added a layer of paranoia to their suffering. Elcano had to maintain discipline and morale among men who had every reason to give up hope. His leadership was tested not by a single dramatic battle, but by a relentless, grinding war of attrition against the sea, against disease, and against despair itself. It was a silent, desperate struggle, far from the eyes of the world. On the 6th of September 1522, nearly 3 years after its departure, a battered vessel limped into the Spanish port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda. It was the Victoria. On board were just 18 Europeans, the wretched survivors of the original crew of over 240 men. They were emaciated, sick, but triumphant. They had done it. They had sailed around the entire world. The news of their arrival spread like wildfire, a tale so incredible it bordered on the mythic. Juan Sebastián Elcano, the Basque master who had taken command in the darkest of hours, was now a national hero. Summoned to the royal court at Valladolid, Elcano stood before the Holy Roman Emperor, King Charles I of Spain. He presented his logbooks, his charts, and the surviving members of his crew as living proof of their extraordinary achievement. The king, recognizing the monumental significance of this feat, bestowed upon Elcano honors befitting such a hero. He was granted a life pension and, most symbolically, a new personal coat of arms. This was not merely a decorative gesture. It was a permanent heraldic record of his unique place in history. The coat of arms was rich with symbolism. It featured 2 cinnamon sticks, nutmegs and cloves, representing the spice cargo that was the expedition's original purpose. More importantly, it was topped by a crest showing a globe, a direct representation of the world he had encircled. Emblazoned upon this globe was a Latin motto, a phrase that spoke directly to Elcano and his achievement, Primus circumnavigate me. You first circumnavigated me. In that simple but powerful declaration, the King of Spain officially credited Elcano with being the first man to have ever completed a voyage around the planet. The call of the sea is a powerful one, and for a man like Elcano, the taste of discovery was impossible to forget. Despite the horrors he had endured and the fame and relative comfort he had earned, he was not content to rest on his laurels. The Spice Islands, the original destination of his first great voyage, still beckoned. In 1525, just 3 years after his historic return, Elcano signed on for a new expedition, this time under the command of Garcia Jofre de Loaisa. Their mission was to return to the Moluccas and establish a permanent Spanish claim to the lucrative spice trade. This time, Elcano's role was different. He was no longer a subordinate ship's master, but a celebrated figure appointed as the expedition's chief pilot and second-in-command. He sailed aboard the flagship, the Santa Maria de la Victoria. The new fleet of 7 ships set out with grand ambitions, but the Pacific Ocean, which had been so deceptively calm for Magellan, showed its true, violent nature. The Loaiza expedition was plagued by disaster from the outset. Storms scattered the fleet, ships were wrecked, and the harsh conditions began to take their inevitable toll on the crew. Once again, the spectre of scurvy arose, its cruel symptoms spreading through the ships. Tragically, history would repeat itself, but with a different outcome for our hero. On the 4th of August 1526, while in the middle of the vast Pacific, Juan Sebastián Elcano, the man who had survived mutiny, starvation, and the unknown terrors of a global voyage, succumbed to the disease. He died of scurvy, the mariner's plague he had so narrowly escaped before. His body, like those of so many sailors of his time, was committed to the depths of the very ocean he had helped to chart. Juan Sebastián Elcano's story is a powerful reminder that history is often shaped by those who step up when destiny calls. He was not born to lead, but his skill, resilience, and courage in the face of overwhelming odds earned him his place as one of the most significant explorers our world has ever known. He inherited a failed mission and turned it into humanity's single greatest leap in geographical understanding. His voyage proved definitively and practically that the Earth was a sphere and that its oceans were connected. He finished the journey, he brought the ship home, and he closed the circle. His legacy is not just in the lines drawn on a map, but in the spirit of exploration itself. Elcano represents the quiet, determined competence that so often underpins grand achievements. While Magellan's name is remembered for the ambition of the voyage, Elcano's should be remembered for its completion. His life demonstrates that true greatness is not always about the grand beginning, but about the strength and tenacity to see a monumental task through to its end, no matter the cost. The age of exploration was a time of incredible bravery, of great cruelty, and of discoveries that reshaped our world. The story of Elcano is but one of countless tales of human endurance and curiosity from that era. I encourage you to look beyond the famous names and discover the other unsung heroes whose journeys have contributed to the world we know today. For in their stories we find a reflection of our own potential to navigate the unknown and to persevere against all odds. The horizon is always there, waiting for the next voyager.